I want to welcome everyone to this public meeting for the City of Fitchburg's Economic Development Strategic Plan. And my name is Mary Jo Bohart. I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of you, maybe some that I haven't met yet, I'll be able to meet with tonight. And it's an exciting evening because we have been working using a project advisory group. Many of those folks are here. These are business leaders who have been helping us for the last 6 months, almost on a monthly or every other month basis, as we were fleshing out some of the key things that have led to the types of suggested goals that we're going to have you all react to this evening, and also actions and so on. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I wanted to acknowledge a few folks before we really get going. We're obviously delighted to have Mayor DiNatale here, and he'll have some introductory remarks for you. We also have several city councilors who have joined us this evening. And I know, as I've been noticing as them come in, if I miss anybody, please let me know. We have Councilor Boschman right up in front. We also have Councilor Marissa Fleming, who is the incoming chair of the Economic Development Committee of the Council. We have Councilor Amy Green, who is coming right in right now. Hi, Amy. And we have Councilor Sam Squalia. We have Councilor Dave Clark. We have Councilor Tom Donnelly, and I'm probably missing somebody, and if I am, I'm sorry. Anthony Zarella is back near the coffee pot. So anyhow, and also Councilor Joel Caddy enjoying some pizza. So anyway, we have a nice collection of city councilors here. We also have folks from the regulatory boards, Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, Historical Commission, Airport Commission. So we have a really nice mix of city officials. But even more important is we have a nice mix of general citizenry, and this is your opportunity, now that we've been working on some draft ideas, for you all to react. Now, I'm also getting ahead of myself because I want to acknowledge the process we've done and who we've done it with. When the city of Fitchburg took what's called a community compact pledge with the state, the Commonwealth, and this was going back more than 2 years ago, we picked economic development as one of 3 areas that we were going to focus on to show dramatic improvement. And shortly after that, the Commonwealth paired us with technical resources in the form of a consultant which was the UMass Boston Collins Center for Public Management. And our consultant here tonight is Monica Lamboy, and Monica has a pink jacket on. So you'll see Monica, she's probably been scurrying around. She might be, oh, there she is. Monica's over on the side there. So she has been our technical resource and led us through this public process. And she'll be telling you more as both Monica and Tom Skorowski, our Executive Director of Community Development, will be doing an informative presentation. But basically, what you all want to know is what will come from this. And so we are actually working our way toward an economic development strategic plan. Now, don't think that plans are just documents. It's all about the process, and the document that results just documents the process we as a city go through. We're picking what sort of economy we seek to have moving forward, and how are we going to achieve it. And so that's where we get into goals and actions, and you're going to be hearing more about that. And our hope is that by the springtime, because we're coming a little close to more input from you all, but we would have a document that would be finished. So this is an exciting time for Fitchburg, and you all will have a hand in it, and so we're so delighted that you're here tonight. What I'm going to do is hand it off to Mayor DiNatale, just a few introductory remarks.
MJ, thank you so much. Very nicely done. The staff, I mean, this is the second night in a row that we've had this type of community event. Last night was with the realtors in the area. Went off really, really well, and I want to thank the community development folks, Tom Skorowski, Mary Jo, and Liz Murphy. Is Liz here tonight? She is. Liz, thank you. Nice job. The genesis of this, before I get going, I want to also, we didn't mention that Senator Dean Tran is here tonight as well. Senator, thank you. Thank you for attending. The genesis of this was our participation in the Community Compact. That is a state initiative spearheaded by the governor, and certainly the lieutenant governor was key in that effort. And the funds that are used as an incentive to join that compact are what paid the Collins Institute for this study tonight, and Monica Lamboy's efforts over the, how long has it been? Been 7 months? Okay, yeah. Now, this is the culmination or part of meeting on a regular basis with community members, business folks, people from Fitchburg State. This tonight is an opportunity for you, as members of the community, to tell us whether or not what we're doing makes sense to you. You want to add something, you want to take something back. There are some things we may have missed. This is the time to make that correction and to let us know that that's important to you when we're talking about the framework of economic development. So again, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Thanks to the powers that be that made the snow stop. And I won't have to put the plows out there. It's always a little minor detail. So again, thank you, folks, and I hope you enjoy this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. And I should add that Mayor DiNatale has been very active in this process. In many communities, a chief elected official may not have the time to be able to be a hands-on participant, but he actually has prioritized this. So all throughout the process, he has been an active participant. It's great to have, him leading on this, so that's terrific. The other thing I didn't share with you has to do with a little tidbit at the end. You're going to hear about the type of participatory experience you're going to have here tonight. But before you leave, and some of you may need to leave before we're all done, at the entrance table, there are pink cards. And the reason we wanted this to be something you do as you leave is you all may have come in here thinking what economic development means to you. It might mean job creation, supporting our existing businesses, attracting new ones, filling vacant commercial space, all of the above. But hopefully, as you go through this exercise tonight, there might be one thing that is your most important thing for you personally, and we want you to put that on this card. So we're calling this the final takeaway thought from you to us. So you're going to be putting your comments on stickers tonight and using your dots and things, but after it's all done, before you exit this building, don't forget to give us your final takeaway thought of like the most important thing to you when you think of economic development in Fitchburg. So I just wanted to remind you of that. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Tom Skorowski and also our consultant Monica Lamboy, and they're going to present some information that will give you a good foundation of sort of Fitchburg's historic economy and where we are at the moment, and that will be a jumping off point for where we're heading. So come on up, Tom.
Thank you again for coming out today. Can everyone hear me in the back? Okay, great. So I know half of these speeches have been thank yous so far, but I want to have a few before I get started. And a couple have already been mentioned, but some other folks from my community development team that are here that weren't. So we have Gibson LaRoche, who is an intern that's been working with us through the Reimagine North of Maine project. His work throughout has been instrumental in helping, really set up the logistics and all of that good stuff. And Mike O'Hare, our principal planner. Where are you, Mike? In the back. Mike's been there for every session as part of the advisory group as well, and has been really a critical piece of the puzzle along the way for our team. And then we have Sue Christensen, our community development administrator, who has been staffing the front desk there and making sure everybody has what they need and knows and is sort of aware of what's happening this evening. And a couple other things. Thank you, of course, to the Senior Center. They always pull out all the stops here. It's a great venue. And then the Fitchburg State students that are here today. So about a week ago, I had a crazy idea, actually with Monica's help, reached out to the principal of Fitchburg Public Schools, high school rather, and said, hey, we want to do this thing called a language ambassador, because we know one of the things we're always lacking in when we have community events is having the opportunity for folks to translate or interpret if folks have English as a second language, what's going on, whether in the writing or in the speaking. And the idea here was to work with students in the Fitchburg Public Schools who speak a certain language that might be an asset to a meeting like this. And so I asked a week ago, pretty last minute thing, and I got 5 students with us today. These students speak, yes, please. They speak Laotian, French, Spanish, Arabic, and have really blown me away, and I think are a testament to what Fitchburg Public Schools brings out, really the best in students here, and brings out community leaders that are going to make change here and into the future. I know it's a cliche to say, but you know, they are our future, and throughout this event, even if there aren't folks here speaking or needing Arabic support or needing Spanish support, they're going to be acting as participants with the rest of you, voting on the different objects and talking about the goals and actions, and I'd encourage you to talk with them and see their thoughts and feelings and how that kind of fits in here. So thank you again for finding the time to come out here. I know it's your February break. You could be doing a lot of other things, so thank you. And one last thank you to the mayor. So I had to write in big, bold letters, say thank you, because I never say it in meetings, and the mayor always says it every time, because he's really a team player, and he understands that you know, he's not the quarterback here, he's the coach, and he's got to put together a good team to make things happen. And that commitment to teamwork and collaboration and economic development, that's really what brought us here today. So thank you again, Mayor, for your support. And now I'm going to kick into some of the agenda. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we learned with our advisory group, the strengths and challenges we discussed in our meetings, key economic trends, and then talk about our preliminary vision statement. You all saw it out there when you were coming in, and then our goals and actions that you're going to be circulating the room talking about this evening. And then at the end, we'll wrap up and talk about next steps. What does this all mean? So I'm going to kind of skip through some of this here, but it's important to know this was funded by grants from both the Commonwealth and Reimagine North of Maine. I see the project director, Trish Bastone, here today. They're instrumental in getting the funding to make this happen. A 22-member advisory group, 5 meetings, and created already an economic trends report, and is currently working on a strategic plan for economic development that includes goals and action items for what we'd like to see in the next 5 years in the city. So here's the advisory group. You also have it on your programs when you walked in. So with the group, we talked about some of the strengths and challenges in Fitchburg. Some of the strengths, you know, diversity, youth, the longtime small business owners that have stuck it out through thick and thin, the distinct neighborhoods, the historical architecture, and ultimately those recreational amenities. And we talked a lot about that distinction between having urban lifestyle, but then having those rural amenities go along with it. And that's a big piece of the strength discussion we had. Challenges, I think there's a ton up there, but it really starts and ends with the idea of perception. And I think everybody here and everyone in the advisory groups I've talked to always talks about perception and stigma and how sometimes it's something we've got to shake in Fitchburg if we want to take things to the next level. Whether that's, you know, using, you know, different community events to build pride, using social media as a tool for perpetuating the positive things that are happening in Fitchburg, any number of ways we can do to kind of get rid of that negative perception and really highlight the great things Fitchburg has to offer. So from there, after that discussion, we looked into the economic trends, and we basically looked over the last 10 years, how is Fitchburg doing on resident characteristics, local business economy, local revenues, and land use. And here's what we found. Oh, and actually, that report is publicly available right now on the city website, so if we're done here and you're really excited by all the fun data I share with you, go to the city's website. It'll be right up there for you to see. So to do the trends report, we compared ourselves to 5 communities, and I bet when some of you are looking up here, you're seeing, well, these communities aren't all like us, and that's true. I think what we wanted to find here was 5 communities that have about the same population and might have things different, but it's basically looking at the full spectrum of cities in the Commonwealth and how do we compare against them. And the first step was the business trends. So one of the things we found is that in the last 10 years, we have more businesses in Fitchburg, but we actually have less employees because the businesses are smaller. And that's really a national trend. That's something we're seeing often. Connected to that, we have this really interesting statistic that looks at the amount of jobs per the workforce. And it says that Fitchburg has 0.62 jobs per resident in the workforce. And I'll just show you a comparison chart. We're not last, but we're close to it. What does this number mean? This number means basically we have about 40,000 people in Fitchburg. We have about 22,000 jobs. So that means if folks are working and live in Fitchburg, not all of them can actually work in Fitchburg. They often have to commute. Why is that important for economic development? That often means during the 9 to 5 hours, our downtown our distinct commercial districts might not be as thriving as they could be if we had jobs in the city. And that's one interesting tidbit that we found. Our largest employers are education, health, and social assistance. We have a decline in manufacturing. Again, national trends here, nothing unusual. Significant retail jobs, something that's also happening nationally. And regional growth is projected in health and social assistance, professional, technical, and accommodation, as well as food service. And those are all things that Fitchburg scores well on, so it makes us well positioned to take advantage of those trends in the future. And this last one I think is really interesting, and it talks to an unmet need for full-service restaurants and limited-service eating places, et cetera. Our consultants at UMass Boston, what they basically did is looked at something called leakage, and I'm going to get really wonky and boring for you, but it basically asks of all the residents and all the businesses and all the workers that are in Fitchburg, they have money that they usually spend to eat out. And it asks, are folks using that money that they usually spend to eat out in Fitchburg, or are they going elsewhere? And what this data, what they call leakage, shows us, and we can probably play with the numbers there a little bit, but it says about roughly $50 million is leaving the city to go elsewhere, whether that's Leominster, Gardner, in the outlying communities or in Boston. But we have a demand for these goods, but it's not necessarily being met in Fitchburg. And that's actually a huge opportunity. It's a weakness right now, but it could be a big opportunity in the future. And then we also looked at revenue trends, how the city is doing financially. We found 74% of all taxes come from residential property. That should be no surprise to anyone here. We've talked about that at length with the DiNatale administration and trying to get that number down. As you see here, compared to our other communities, we are pretty low on the poll in terms of revenue, as well as the burden on the residents. And one of the big focuses of this economic development strategic planning group, and really all of our work over the past few years, is getting that commercial tax base up, getting that industrial tax base up, so the burden doesn't fall solely on the homeowner. At the same time, we've found that we have the highest residential tax rate among those comparison communities and the fourth highest commercial rate. But the good news there is if you actually look at how much we pay per square foot, it's very low, not only compared to those four communities, but communities throughout the Commonwealth. So if you look at this chart, where we stand in real estate tax, we're right now 272nd out of the 351 communities in the Commonwealth. So that's actually pretty good. That means that although our rates might be high, we're not paying that much on our quarterly tax bill compared to others. It's shown significant variability in growth in revenues over time. That means we've jumped around a bit. We've seen over $2.5 million in growth in the last 10 years, a lot of that coming from the hotel tax, and some of that now coming in recent years with the new medical marijuana facilities that have opened up. 203 of the 351 communities have a meals tax. We don't. We talked about, is that something we'd be interested in? I think you'll see it on one of the boards. And we have a significant increase in free cash and stabilization. What that means is we're on much better financial footing than we were in 2008 post the Great Recession, and we're doing pretty well right now financially, which is good news again. And our vision for the future. We took all that data together and we looked at, what does this mean for us? How can we chart a path forward for the next 5 years for the economic development future of the city? This is sort of our preamble. I'm not going to read it. I think you guys have it there, but it basically looks, okay, maybe I'll read a little bit. Our diverse community, manufacturing, historic form, Fitchburg State, our residential neighborhoods, and then at the same time looking at the Nashua River, our exceptional backdrop, and again, that idea of offering the amenities of urban living with a picturesque rural landscape. And from that, we created a set of 9 goals that you'll see throughout the boards this evening, creating a mix of businesses, creating a family-friendly environment. This was a huge thing that we talked about within our groups. Where's Christy Stover from Applewild School? So Christy was really strong on this being a clear need that if we really want to chart a path forward, if we want to improve the residential tax base, and if we want to improve the commercial tax base, we've got to make a place that feels family friendly. It feels family friendly downtown, in our neighborhood districts, in our residential districts. That includes events, that includes different types of businesses, that includes different types of housing. And then outdoor recreational and cultural activities, sort of building upon what I think is really the hub for both of those things in North Central, and really elevating ourselves using our strengths, which is those two things, among others, and strengthening the downtown core, but at the same time, not ignoring our distinct neighborhood commercial districts. So we've got to do work downtown. We also have to do work on South Street and Route 12 and Claiborne and West Fitchburg. We've got to think about all of our distinct commercial districts. And we've got 4 more. And this one's really critical. And I see President Lapidus here and Provost Cardea, and talking about building on what we have here with Fitchburg as a university town. And also even taking it a step further. We have Christy here again. It's not just a university town, it's also an education town, and really building on those core assets that we have here. And of course, the public schools, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention again. And maintaining an attractive housing stock. So this is a thing that a lot of times people talk about housing in terms of you're either doing housing or you're doing economic development. What our report suggests and what I would propose to you is that they have to be integrally connected. You cannot have economic development without having high quality housing. We've got a severe housing shortage in the eastern part of the state right now. People are looking for high quality housing options, and if we're not providing them, we're putting ourselves at an economic disadvantage, and we've got to think about ways that we can both increase our amount of production and improve the quality of the housing stock. Ensuring that the built environment is as attractive as our natural one, and making getting in and around the city fun, easy, and affordable. That might mean, complete streets. That might mean the Twin City Rail Trail, making it a place that's family-friendly, safe to walk, bike, drive, anything. And making that vision a reality. That's what we're all here for today. So let's talk about how that's going to work. We've got a goals and actions open house that will take up the bulk of the rest of this evening. And we're going to have these different tables set up. You can kind of see them around, and you probably walked around and saw a few as you were coming in. And this is just an example of what you'll see. You'll see a big umbrella goal. So in this case, we've got making Fitchburg's downtown a vibrant, attractive, mixed-use destination, etc. Underneath that goal, we have a series of sub-goals. And what those sub-goals are the goals that really make that big goal real, right? So how are we going to improve downtown? One of our sub-goals states that to do that, you've got to make it safe, you've got to make it cleanly, you've got to make it attractive, you've got to make it livable. And then from that, we have a series of action items that says, well, how do we actually do that on the ground? In the next 1 to 5 years, what are some action items we can take? So you're going to see a series of these, and what we're going to ask for you to do, how to contribute, I don't know how this slide works, so I'm just going to talk you through it. You have 20 little dots, or 24, I think, that are your voting dots. And I think there's, how many, Monica, different choices do people have? This is what happens when you don't follow directions. Okay. So we've got about 200 choices that you all have. I know we want to solve world peace and we want to change everything overnight, but we've got to think about the 24 dots we have, the 24 choices you all have. What are the most important things to you, whether it's a big-time goal, whether it's a sub-goal, whether it's an action item? And then if you want to do something above and beyond voting, you want to make a comment in the margins, please don't write on where the words are, but write on a Post-it note and post it up, or write in the margins and let us know what's missing, what you really like, what's something that you wish maybe wasn't here. And then when we're done, we'll come back together, or this is wrap up, next step. Should I just do this now or should we wait? Later? Okay, I'll do it later. I'm going to follow the directions this time. So I guess with that, as you're going around in just a few moments, there's going to be somebody from our advisory group at each table, and they'll be available to ask and answer any questions you might have about that specific group. I would encourage you to ask as many questions as you can. Use all of your voting privileges that you have before you, and make any comments in the margins or any thoughts and ideas. Make sure they're known. And what we hope to do with these thoughts is turn it into a final document. So you see on every single board it says draft. That's for a reason, right? This is not set in stone. We want to hear your opinions and thoughts. Not everything's going to be incorporated into the final document, but we want to use this as a springboard to help us complete that final report. Before we get there, does anyone have any questions before we get to that? Okay. At 45 minutes, we'll give a warning. 10-minute warning, and then we'll just have a quick wrap-up, and I'll tell you basically what this means, what you guys just did, how are we going to incorporate it into our work moving forward. But if nobody has any questions, we can get right to it. All right, you want to take it from here?
And I would encourage people not to be shy because there's ample food in the back, coffee, water, pizza, cookies. So if you had a little piece when you came in, great, go back for some more. It's okay to eat while you work your way around the room. And maybe a great way to get started.
Walking distance to here.
Yes, you can stick anywhere. Actions, yeah, wherever you want to put it.
Right on the corner.
Yep, perfect. I think a coffee shop would be great.
Is to make Spanish egg. Oh, I know you guys do it. In the 50s. No, I'm on the zoning board.
So,
Concrete caps when they cut them down. So,
yeah, see over here, roadway, sidewalk conditions,
area with the incredible